everyone and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sarah.
And there is only one thing we can talk about, apart from me being back from a wonderful holiday, sounding like a teenage boy.
Oh yes, welcome back. We've been chatting for so long. I welcomed you back maybe an hour and a half ago. But welcome back to you now that we're recording as well.
Yes, it was wonderful. I'm now back in the cold of England.
Yeah. Anyways, continue.
So there is only one thing we could possibly talk about, which is the Sara Allie derby. That is the England versus the USA game that happened this weekend.
Well, I feel like actually there's plenty others. Shall we highlight what we have in this episode other than that as well?
Go on, you do it.
All right, well, obviously we're going to talk England versus USA, but we're also going to chat everything that went down with the whole news that Barbra Banda was the BBC Women's Footballer of the Year, rightfully so, but we'll talk about what went down with that, why it's important. We'll obviously take you around the world like we do as always. And then finally, we've got a wonderful interview in the back half of this episode with the one and only Croix Soto. You might know her from her time at Kansas City, perhaps from her time at Houston Dash, perhaps from her time with the Oregon Ducks if you follow college soccer. And we had a wonderful chat with her. So stay tuned for that in the back half of the episode. So we got a jam-packed one today.
As ever, we always deliver.
All right, without further ado, let's get into it.
So let's kick off with our game of the week, which was England versus the USA. And I like Sarah's thinking because we both saw the same tweet and thought the same thing, which was this game could have been an email.
A little bit. It was just the perfect way to summarize it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't the world game changer, I have to say, of a game.
Not the greatest way for us to kick off chatting about the game. But nonetheless, even though it probably could have been an email, there's still, I feel like, plenty to discuss about each team. And number one, I'll say we're highlighting this game because it's your team versus my team, but also because obviously these two other teams will play other games. US is playing the Netherlands on Tuesday. England is playing Switzerland on Tuesday. Those two games are just happening a little too late for us to include in the recording. So if you want to hear more about those, head over to our Patreon. But let's talk about this one because it was such a blast. Almost 80,000 people in attendance at Wembley Stadium. You had a ticket. You didn't go. Big boo for you. You want to defend yourself here for a second?
I landed at 2 a.m. I was not making the trek down to London.
Fair enough. All right, so this game ended 0-0. A fair scoreline because, let's be honest, there weren't all that many incredible opportunities. The U.S. were given a penalty kick at one point. VAR called it back, rightfully so. It should not have been a penalty kick. Don't worry. Everybody's gripping their seats like, she better not. Don't worry. But I feel like we can still talk about each of these teams individually. And I feel like maybe the more interesting one is England right now because the Euros are less than 8 months away. What are they? Almost basically 6 months away at this point. And England really don't seem like they've got... Serena doesn't even seem like she knows her best 11 right now. And this is a moment where you probably want to be solidifying your best 11. So let's first talk England. I have my thoughts. Do you want to kick it off or shall I?
Well, if anybody remembers from the last time I was on, I thought that England were going to get annihilated and I thought that would be a good thing for us. I was actually pleasantly surprised about how we played. I thought defensively it was one of the strongest that we've looked. I appreciate the fact that because Millie Bright has not been her best and hasn't been called up, we had to rejig the formation and it worked. It genuinely worked.
Well, not the formation, just the personnel in the back.
Just the personnel. But, having Greenwood start was what I've been crying out for as an England fan for so long, and she really showed her worth. I thought it was one of Jess Carter's best games. Clearly playing in Gotham has given her an idea on how to defend Americans.
Well, she's also finally playing at center back, which is her position.
Yeah. So for me, it was defensively some of the best I've seen us play. It was good to see Mary between the sticks. I thought she was playing the best that she's played for a while because I know anybody's been following the French league, she's not had the greatest introduction to PSG. So in that half of the England team, I thought we played really well. Up front is another question.
Yeah, There was nothing happening in the front three. And if anybody listened to last week's episode when Allie was on vacation, Amy came on and we talked a lot about how we both did, but I was saying that I think there needs to be a formation change for two reasons. The main one, though, because I don't really even have anything to say about the front three other than they really weren't there. Everything in England goes through Keira Walsh. Possession does her. She's the focal point of everything. And we talked last week about how maybe a formation change with a dual 6, a double pivot, might lend itself to England actually freeing up Keira Walsh, because then there's two players to cover. That's not what happened. The same thing occurred where you can't go through Keira Walsh. And I want to pose this because I think it was Farrah Williams said, I don't even know if it was on our postgame or your postgame, assuming it was yours because it was Farrah Williams, said that she feels like Keira Walsh is maybe just complacent right now because she hasn't gotten enough competition. And I think she was speaking both in terms of like competition for her job in the England squad and also like within the Spanish league. She doesn't come up against a lot of competition on a week-to-week basis. And she's getting a little complacent because of that. What are your thoughts on that comment?
I agree. I think the problem is, and the amount of players that have said it about specific European leagues, that you have that one powerhouse and you may have one team that might give you a run for your money and then the rest you can just walk all over. You know, I know Onabatier was talking about how different it was when at Manchester United she was battling every single game, whereas at Barcelona now it's not that at all, and it does take you out of form for your national team. But the thing is, we haven't got anybody really that can do what Keira Walsh does. So I think you need to maybe have someone in tandem with her, like you said, having that double pivot. But I don't think you can take her away, because I'm like, who would you have in the middle?
You can't take her away, but I think you need to do something to free her up, because that continues to be the problem. And I actually think that England has a plethora of midfielders. I would have loved to see Grace Clinton in there a little bit more than we actually got to. Somebody like that could even free up like Georgia Stanway to play more, maybe alongside Keira Walsh. Whatever it is, that's still the missing piece in my opinion for England. But in general, not a lot of possession. It didn't really look like you guys were the defending European champions. And while the back line did look better, in other words, they didn't concede 4 goals to Germany, it was also up against a front three of the United States that had never played together before. And I think that also needs to be taken into account.
I think the biggest problem is our front three. I think if anything that game showed us is that we need to rejig our front three. Because she's getting a lot of heat online. I will say I thought Jessica Naz did pretty well for her first England start up against the USA. I thought she was quite creative and could run into space and was pinging balls in, but Mido and Russo were not on pace at all. And it's a running theme with Russo. You're seeing it in league for Arsenal. You know, she's scored maybe 2 goals, which is your central number 9 is not good enough, and she hasn't scored for England in a long time. And I still think she's in that super sub mentality and she doesn't want to know what to do as a starter. So for me, it was the front three that needed the biggest rejigging, and I'm hoping for the Switzerland game, which will have played by the time this airs, we will have properly change things about and seen what's about, because if we play that front three in the Euros, we're barely going to get out the groups, if at all.
Well, I think the idea was, I don't think that they will. I think a lot of these felt pretty experimental in terms of the front three. I definitely don't think the front three is the issue. I think that the issue is the midfield. England are not a transitional team. They want to play possession. And you know what? You can't do that if you don't have a midfield that can possess the ball. And the midfield is getting absolutely worked over and over and over again. And for me, that's the issue. You have a midfield that can control possession, those front three are going to have an easier time. That's not to fully let them off the hook, because I also don't think that they played a great game, but I think the main issue is in the midfield. Let's talk about the US quickly, because I don't think there's as much to say about the US because they're not working towards next summer. They're working towards 2027. So we knew this was going to be more of an experimental team. I will say, other than the front three, it didn't feel all that experimental. The only negative that I really have to say about the United States is that the decision making in and around the box was a missing piece, but it was a completely new front line. They'd never played together. It was Alyssa Thompson, Lynn Williams, and then Emma Sears, and they'd never all played together. So it makes sense that that maybe was the missing piece. For me, there were a lot of standouts. I thought Thompson was great. And mainly, I just want to talk about how great Casey Kruger was, because she was incredible. She earned that start. I absolutely love her at the left back with Fox at the right back. I think those should be the two starting outside backs moving forward. And in my opinion, it seems like the only job up for grabs in that back line is who is the other center back alongside Naomi Girma. I thought Sonnet did a good job in this game. I love when Davidson's in there too, but she gets hurt a lot. And other than that, I mean, the midfield is also one we could talk about for the U.S. As always.
I was going to say, let's talk about your midfield. Firstly, and I promise I don't just bang on about her because I have a grudge against one thing, but Haran, you scored a bicycle kick once. Please don't keep doing it. Please stop trying, because you look like an idiot. And you could have scored a couple of goals against England if you'd gone for a straightforward volley rather than trying to do this bicycle kick that you've not been able to pull off.
I guess along the lines of Haran, it does seem like the Coffey, Lavelle, Haran midfield is what Emma Hayes is like trying to see if that can work. But I think we keep running into this whole like Lindsay Haran and Rose Lavelle don't play super well together. I loved seeing Rose on the side working with Emily Fox. I love how that pairing's developing. But if your number 8 and your number 10 aren't playing super well together, where do you go from here? And it kind of feels like two immovable pieces that don't play well together. So one of them needs to be moved. It just feels like this embarrassment of riches up top, and I just wish one of them could slot into that number 8 role, because Rose Lavelle plays the 10 and Lindsay Horan plays the 8, and the person who's coming on as the 8 right now is Corbin Albert, who did get booed at Wembley. I've been seeing people being like, oh, they blocked that on the stream. I heard it. I very much heard it.
No, we very much heard it. And I actually want to circle back on that because of some of the comments that Emma Hayes made about Corbin Albert.
In the postgame?
Yep, in the postgame.
Haven't heard him, so let's hear it right now.
So she was asked about it because obviously it was resounding. Like, I had friends that were there and literally everybody was booing Corbin when she came on. And Emma Hayes' comments on it was basically like, look, I heard it. I don't really comment on my players' personal lives, which we know that's a lie, but clearly she's learning. And it's up to Corbin really to address it. And I'm like, I get that, and I do, but the thing is, you guys have banged on about how you dealt with it privately, and I think that was your biggest mistake, and we've talked about it multiple times about dealing with it privately doesn't work because her comments were public. And until we see some sort of public, not even apology, but like the work has been done publicly, she's going to keep getting booed wherever she goes. And she's been rumoured, obviously, to go to certain clubs, and she's not going to get on well. Like, there's a rumour that she's going to go to Chelsea, and I'm like, that's not going to go down well in the WSL. She's not going to have a fun time in the WSL. So I get that you don't want to comment on your players' private lives. You've learned from that, Emma Hayes, but we need to see something public if you want the booing to stop of Albert.
I think it's interesting she said that. That's actually different than the comments that she'd made prior. Prior, she'd kind of said, like, she basically put herself like almost in front of Corbin and was like, I will defend her. She's doing the work. Everybody needs to, basically move on and lay off of her. So that's a change in tone from what she had said before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think she's learned her lesson.
But back to the midfield. We saw Jayden Shaw come on, and she's so good at the number 10, or she's so good at the center forward position, but I wish she could play the 8 or something like that just to see. And these are the types of things I'm excited to see moving forward with the U.S. because I think we are going to see a lot of different pairings until we figure out what works best. But, 0-0, it was never about the scoreline. Did we learn a lot as a team for the United States? No. Did you learn a lot as a team for England? I feel like actually, yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it was probably a great game to see what is working and what isn't working. Like you said, we need to figure out the midfield problem because that seems to be our stumbling block. But I do think it was one of the better performances I've seen England give in a while. And it was the first time I'd seen Serena not just play her favourites that we talked about. And I'm excited to see what we do for Switzerland and see if we change it up again.
It was also nice to see those two wonderfully talented, brilliant football minds come together after the game. Serena and Emma Hayes gave each other a cute little pat on the back after. And the final thing we have to say is that Alyssa Nair has announced her retirement. And gosh, it's just so wonderful to see her between the sticks, as they say. And it will certainly be missed. Although England really didn't give her much to do in that game, not gonna lie.
No, we didn't. But I'm quite sad because Nair is one of the best goalkeepers at the moment. So it always makes me sad when players that I've seen as my generation start retiring. I'm like, I'm so old.
It really does feel like that there's been a big wave, and it's kind of like the last wave of the generation that's retiring. And we love you, Alyssa.
Over to some more news coming from England. We have a competition every year, which is the BBC's Women's Footballer of the Year. Now, this is voted by the British public, and I want to really emphasise that because of what we're about to say. And this year, it was won by Barbra Banda. And of course it was, because of the year that she has had. But then things happened, and Sarah's going to explain what happened.
I guess I'll just say, like, trigger warning. And if you've been on social media and you've been wrapped up in this and you don't want to hear about it again because you moved on or it was triggering for you, you can fast forward, and that is totally fine. We encourage you to do that. The trigger warning is, I guess, quite a few things. Allie, what are our trigger warnings here?
Racism, transphobia.
Yeah, racism, transphobia, misogyny. There we go. All of them. So unless you're ready to, like, dive in deep, fast forward. We're going to try to keep this to 5 minutes. So fast forward about 5 minutes and see where you get to. All right. Without further ado. Yeah, so that was announced. And like you said, rightfully so, Allie, she was named Women's Footballer of the Year. And I think what really kicked off the quote-unquote outrage is that somebody from The Telegraph, which I don't know, but based on the article, I'd assume is a rather trashy news organization, or at least very right-wing.
I was going to say, it's not trashy. It's actually considered a broadsheet, but it's super right-wing. Like, it's
even more upsetting that it's not considered trashy, and somebody wrote this article then, because a quote-unquote journalist wrote an article essentially saying Barbra Banda should not have won this award because Barbra Banda is not a woman. And his claims behind that are that one time Barbra Banda's testosterone levels were too high for her to compete in the Africa Cup of Nations. Now, we've talked about this before, Allie. We talked about this back when it happened. This was in the lead up to the 2021 Olympics that this happened. And she couldn't compete in some qualifiers for her nation, but then she could in fact compete in the Olympics. We all remember how that went. She was outstanding, a hat trick against the Netherlands, just incredible. But as it goes, for some reason, somebody somewhere decided that testosterone levels were a good measure if you're a cis woman or not, and also decided that you can't play unless you are a cis woman with underneath these levels of testosterone. I'm getting into the nitty-gritties of it. He wrote this article basically saying that this is an abomination that Barbra Banda has been named Women's Footballer of the Year because her testosterone levels are so high that she's not considered a woman. And thus ensued, the right wing. Picked it up everywhere, and none other than J.K. Rowling decided to jump on that bandwagon. I don't even remember what she tweeted. It was something about, you might as well just go like spit in the faces of all women or whatever it is. Something stupid like that. I got annoyed and posted on Twitter from our Twitter account. This is not really part of the larger story, but it feels worth sharing. I shamed J.K. Rowling for her comments, and I said that we stand by Barbra Banda because this is ridiculous. We're not even, let's this could go a lot of different ways. So let's just even put the whole like trans women playing in women's sports things aside, because we're not even talking about that. This is a cis woman who was playing in the NWSL and won Women's Footballer of the Year. And all of these people are now online saying that this is an abomination because, quote, he is a man. And just the like deep-rooted racism that comes with that, the deep-rooted transphobia that comes from all of that. It's just so absolutely heartbreaking. And I don't know. I will say the off season, if anybody's watching the off season, their Twitter account was going hard in the paint for Barbra Banda, and it was so wonderful to see. And it was the only silver lining, I guess, was that the whole women's soccer community that's online did really band together, no pun intended, in defense of this person who was very deserving of the award that she had just won.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I was away when it happened, and then I was like, all these notifications. So first and foremost, I stand by what you tweeted, and we will always stand by it on this show. So if you don't like it, well, don't listen to
I got some comment that was like shaming us for that, and I was just like, saying that they unfollowed us, and I was like, okay, then I don't really think this was the space for you, and goodbye.
Yeah, it's not an airport. You don't need to announce your departure. So, yeah, and the bigger picture of this is because we've seen it in various sports with various athletes, and it is always athletes of colour that get pulled into this scrutiny. And as I was speaking to someone before, medicine is still based on the white man, and it's just is. Every study is mainly based on white men. Historical medicine is based on white men. And that means that we don't know what is natural testosterone levels in women regardless, because it's not been tested. It's still based on, and it's always players of colour that get pulled up for being manly. And I use this in air quotes. And you look at the comments underneath of the video of her winning, and it was like, well, he is obviously a man. Look at him. That is clearly a man. Because Barbra Banda is not small, blonde, petite, which is what they're expecting. And again, and that's the racism. But it's, you see, because you never see, Millie Bright is probably built the same way as Barbra Banda. You never see the calls for her. Lucy Bronze is probably built like Barbra Banda. You never see those calls about it. And so it was clearly racism. And the sad things is we saw some quite high figures within the sporting community who were jumping on that bandwagon. And it's always, unfortunately, it's got to the point where it's not surprising, but it's still saddening. And the fact that Orlando Pride had to make a statement, her teammates had to make statements to be like, we support our player, we know how great she is, we love having her on the team, and then they're being called traitors to the female race. And it was a whole load of ness. Yeah,
I mean, it's the same people who are like trashing women's sports. Nobody watches women's sports. Women's sports is dumb. You should lower the rim in basketball. It's those people. And they're the same people who are sitting there like, we must protect women's sports. And it's like, I don't think you care about women's sports. That's a thinly veiled argument. And I think you said everything really well. It's racism, it's homophobia, it's transphobia, it's sexism, and it was deeply upsetting. The fact that, I was just like so deeply sad that Barbra Banda had to endure that as a human being. There's no words. There's just no words for that. I guess I'll just say, like, it's really prominent in this country, and it's Title IX was a really big moment in the United States. And I think so big that people even, like, I think you know what Title IX is. You didn't grow up here, right?
I know what Title IX is, yep.
And the fact that it's now being used essentially to try to get laws made that would not allow certain people to play sports when they should be allowed to, whether it's something like this where it's like a testosterone level, whether it's like trans women and trying to keep them out of women's sports. And the fact that this thing that was created in protection of equality is now being used in the exact opposite way is like the most heartbreaking the most heartbreaking. And we will always stand on the side of like inclusion, I guess, is the only way to say it. All right. The only way to end this. Barbra Banda earned that award, period, the end. And I hope she puts it somewhere in a case on a mantle where she looks at it every day. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
Australia, in what is becoming such a rivalry fixture, Australia took on Brazil twice in their international break. It was the South American team who can claim victory in both fixtures. Brazil took them 3-1 and 2-1 this week, both games having quick goals to stun Australia. Despite the home sides getting consolation goals in the matches, these games were very much under the Brazilians' control.
And to Spain, despite the recent controversy surrounding the players called up this time around, Spain showed strong against South Korea in their friendly. A 5-0 win over their opponents and 75% possession overall. Is the dominant Spain back?
To Scotland, and Scotland played their first leg against Finland to qualify for the Euros. The game ended 0-0 with it all to play for in the return leg in Helsinki. The winner secures a place in next year's tournament.
And finally, to Euros qualifiers, other nations trying to get their place in the competition played their first leg this week. Wales and Republic of Ireland drew 1-1, as did Portugal and Czech Republic. Poland have a narrow 1-0 lead over Austria. Belgium 2-0 over Ukraine. However, Northern Ireland have a mountain to climb as they are 4-0 behind Norway in their qualifier.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides research analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Now for something super special. We were very lucky to sit down and talk with Croix Soto. She has played for Kansas City and Houston Dash and is now making the very exciting leap up north to the Canadian Northern Super League, playing for AFC Toronto. We managed to chat to her about her college days and how important that was to her development, as well as playing in the NWSL and her excitement for this new league. It's truly infectious. I hope you enjoy the chat as much as we did having it.
And before we forget, you can find Croix on Instagram and on Twitter if you want to follow her journey. On Instagram, she's Croix Soto, CROIXSOTO _ Croix Soto _. And on Twitter, she's just at Croix Soto. We are here with the wonderful, the only Croix Soto, and Otis. Cute doggy Otis has joined us as well. Croix, you probably know from her time in the Pac-12, rest in peace, Pac-12, 2-time Pac-12, all Pac-12 honors. She played in Kansas City, most recently for the Houston Dash. Croix, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Of course, and thank you for bringing Otis.
Of course, he's sleeping now.
He's the star of the show. He always will be. Yeah.
He is the star of the show.
All right, so I can't lie that we didn't just spend the past 15 minutes chatting about nonsense. So I did say that people might know you from your playing days, but they might also know you from Croix's Corner if they are Kansas City fans.
Yes.
Shout out to a 3-episode podcast that lives on YouTube that people can go watch. Why not? Interviewing your teammates, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got an experienced podcaster among us, Allie. But with that being said, I feel like we're going to kick it off. Instead of just asking the normal questions that we assume you get asked about your playing career, we came up with this little segment called Shirts of Your Lives as a way to, 3 questions as a way to kind of get to know the pivotal moments in your playing career. And Allie's going to intro that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So regular listeners will know Shirts of Our Lives. It's 3 simple questions where you talk about the shirt or a jersey that symbolizes for you something really special. So we're going to start off with the first question, which is, what shirt/jersey symbolizes the beginning of your football/soccer career?
Okay, so I think I was maybe 4 or 5 when I began playing soccer. And then this is where it gets a little dicey. I was either 4, 5, or 6 when I wore my first jersey, Mint Stripes. And I remember the name, loved it.
Nice.
It was like a greenish, tealish, vertical stripes. It was like teal, blue, and then like white, like those two colors alternating.
It
And
sounds
that's
very 90s nylon.
Yes, yes. Years ago, I don't even know how many years ago that was. And that's when I think soccer kind of became a lifestyle, if you will. I then played club soccer, and one of the clubs that we won't give any credit for, we merged then to an all-female club that, shout out SoCal Academy, best club ever.
Nice.
That is when everything changed. And then I was with that team, that club, until I went off to school. I think I started there when I was 12 or 13. And then we merged to SoCal, and then we all stayed together, basically. Of course, a few people left, a few people came, but for the most part, our core group was together. And those jerseys were first black and white, and then the SoCal jerseys were blue and white, like North Carolina Tar Heel blue.
Nice.
And that is when everything kind of took a turn, and I realized, okay, like I can go to college for soccer and then play pro, because I actually got to watch some people play pro. So it was like obtainable, which was great. And then, yeah, the rest is kind of history.
That's so nice that the whole squad stayed together. I feel like that's super rare.
Yes, it sure is.
All right. The next is, I feel like maybe you've already said it. Maybe it's a different one. We're wondering what jersey or shirt symbolizes kind of like the turning point in your career for you.
Definitely the SoCal Academy jerseys. We were so together. Like, I honestly wish the whole team could have went to college together. Like, that's how good we were and close. And like our club coach was so good, taught us different systems, tactics, technical ability, all the things I feel like that kind of get looked over. He like made sure that we had all the foundations to succeed after leaving him.
That's sadly so rare. Like we were just talking about this before, or like that situation where everything is wonderful. Like that is so rare.
And nobody knows that. But it's crazy too, because I was so lucky. I only had to drive 7 minutes to practice. I have friends that commuted hour and a half, 90 plus minutes to training every day. And I was just like, I would never commute that far. But people came so far to come and play with us. And like, that obviously like showed and meant something, but I could not imagine doing that.
Allie's got the last one.
I do have the last one. And finally, what shirt symbolizes your proudest moment or your biggest success in football?
That's hard. Okay. So the SoCal jerseys, those ones, but then I would have to say also my Oregon jerseys, because we had so many of them.
Shout out Nike.
Shout out Uncle Phil. Yes, we love him. The reason those are so important are because it just symbolizes, I feel like, everything I've gone through, all the hard work I've put in to get to like the points of a lot of success in the classroom, on the field, with friendships in life. I just feel like college really was a big umbrella of everything. And that was extremely fun. Would not change my college experience for the world. Loved my coaches, loved my teammates, loved my school. Everything was great. So that was also the other jersey.
As you sit here in your Oregon Ducks sweatshirt, so must be. I guess this wasn't a planned question, but I'm curious I feel like college is such a big, but especially soccer wise, if you could pinpoint like the biggest difference between yourself going in freshman year and then leaving after your last year.
Oh, yeah.
What's the biggest difference there between like those two versions of yourself?
Oh my gosh. Great question. A freshman year, you have no idea about life. Let's be so real. I had to learn how to make spaghetti. I thought I knew how to cook. I left the house and I really guess I didn't know how to cook. I had some international teammates and I'm like, if I'm struggling, how the heck do you know what you're doing? But I think the biggest thing is just maturity and honestly being more understanding and having empathy for people, as well as just realizing, like, in that moment, it can feel like a big deal, but in the grand scheme of things, that is not that serious or a big deal. And I feel like that is also about like growing up in general. Cause now I'm like, what is everyone being all crazy about? Like, that is so small in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I understand that. College can feel small too, which doesn't help it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you're with the same people 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
All right. Moving along to the NWSL, because you spent the last year in Houston. Coming out of college, which we just talked about, like I said, you 2-time All Pac-12 honors. Rest in peace, Pac-12. We're not going to get into that. You went undrafted out of the NWSL from the college draft, practiced with North Carolina, signed with Kansas City, and then on to Houston for this past season. We'll get into all of that, but if it's okay with you, I'd love to ask you just quickly about going undrafted because, well, for a couple of reasons. First, I guess, kind of mentioned to you, like before we even hit record, I think it's nice for everybody to hear all of the different pathways.
Yes.
We've talked to people who didn't get recruited to college and ended up playing in college as a walk-on and so on and so forth. And just to know that it's not always a smooth path, but especially with the elimination of the draft altogether moving forward, curious how you feel about the elimination of the draft personally, like as a player in the league. Is it better or worse for players from your perspective?
I think that it is better. It should have been gone a few years ago, in my opinion. Being undrafted was interesting, especially when you see the mock drafts. You're in some, not in some, so you really don't know what's going to happen. But again, like how I mentioned earlier, you think that that's the end of the world, but it's actually not. And once I was able to kind of like channel that inner energy, I totally forgot about it and like never looked back. It was just more of a, honestly, better because you didn't have to prove anybody right in a sense. I feel like a lot of people will get drafted and you're like, what the heck? Like, where did they go once they're in the league type of thing? So it's also where you went to school, how well your school did. There's a lot of factors. I know some people that got drafted pretty high and now they're not even playing soccer anymore. So it just really is a lottery. And you just don't know what the heck is going to happen.
Actually, a very quick question. We're seeing more and more players skipping college and going straight into the NWSL. You spoke very highly of your college experience. Do you see that as a detriment for players not doing the college experience and going straight into professional contracts?
Yes. So I also think it's very different with how you're raised, but my family, parents went to college, graduated. It's just kind of the thing you do. I think it's great that some players are able to skip college and get these really massive NWSL contracts, but it's important to know that these contracts are not like the NBA. So if something does happen, even though it's maybe more than the minimum, like a pretty decent amount of money, good chunk of change, you're still not going to be set for life type of thing. And I think it's just really important to know that. I also just think developmentally, college teaches you so much, not only about yourself, about others, about the world. And I feel like even if you go for 2 years, that's great. Like, I feel like you just at least need to go for a little bit. I also think like the weightlifting is different. You bulk up a little bit, like your body's still developing at age 15. Like, there's so much time that allows you to be able to perform at your best that you are kind of just skipping out on. And I think everybody should go to college, even if it's for a year or two. I just feel like you learn so much. And there's no other place where you're going to go and be like the top talent, in quotes, and play every game, even if you perform badly. If you're one of the best players on the team, like, that's your time to learn and grow. Because once you come to the league, it's way less forgiving. If you're not producing, they're not going to keep playing you to help you produce. They're going to put somebody else in.
Mm-hmm. It's less developmental.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, curious. We have to ask you about, while we're talking about the NWSL, you just spent the past year in Houston after spending some time in Kansas City. And it's no secret to anybody who followed the NWSL, Houston finished in last place. I think they were in the news a lot, and never for good reason, for the rotating cast of coaches, front office, everything like that. Whatever you feel comfortable speaking to, can you just tell us about your time at Houston in both the positives and the negatives? And for those who don't know, moving forward, Croix is going to play in the brand new Canadian League, the Northern Super League. If what happened or not what happened, if your time in Houston played any role in that move. I feel like I'm piling like 20 questions into one.
Let me see if
Will you tell us about your time in Houston?
So Houston was a ride within itself, very much a roller coaster. Truly taught me to persevere and just understand that, again, like, something is not the end of the world. And I truly believe that you end up somewhere for a reason. Like, you have people like put in places for a reason. And Houston was like a lesson in itself, that even when something doesn't go your way or the year doesn't go exactly your way, you just keep kind of putting one foot in front of the other, and everything like will be resolved. And I feel like that's exactly what happened with Toronto and with the new Canadian League. It kind of all worked itself out, which I'm super grateful for. I learned a lot, met new people, met new friends. We did have a bit of a coaching situation. We didn't have our assistant coach was the coach from June on. So that was obviously hard for everybody. And then what else? Our GM also left.
Yeah, it's like we don't even know. I feel like it's just been in the dark. We don't even really about it.
Yeah, we don't even really know. We'll just say like left.
Isn't there anymore?
Isn't there anymore? Yeah, isn't there anymore? And then it was just a lot of weight on everybody's shoulders from a playing perspective. And I feel like I actually was watching something the other day about Mark Cuban. He's like the owner of the Dallas Mavs, and he was saying when he became an owner, they were a nightmare. And then he got a call from one of the players, and they were like, there's no room service. And so he was like, we really need to like elevate this and revamp and upgrade whatever, because once you give players exactly what they need, like, performing no longer becomes an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like obviously he has so much money, but I feel like that was a very good way to say that if players' basic needs are met, then on the field performances will translate, which is great.
I feel like that's probably like as like basic as it sounds to you. I feel like that's probably really helpful for a lot of people to hear, because even when you just said it was a lot of weight on the player's shoulders. I was wondering, I'm curious exactly how so.
Yeah.
And it sounds like just a lot of the more day-to-day things ended up on your plate and you were focusing more on that than on performance.
Yeah. And I feel like too, of course, some more than others, but it just, everybody was walking on eggshells. Nobody was that comfortable because you just didn't know what was going to happen the next day or who was going to leave. So it was just a very interesting dynamic, if you will.
So you have publicly announced you are joining the Northern Super League up in Canada. You will be part of AFC Toronto's team. So what made you make that decision to jump over to north of the border to Canada? And what do you consider some of the benefits and downsides when you were making that decision?
Oh my gosh, I am ecstatic. I actually had so many conversations with Billy and Marco, the head coach and GM / another thing. I don't exactly know the full title, but they just really seem like they have a really good grasp of what the game should be, what the professional standards should be. And I honestly cannot wait to be a part of that. Additionally, the Northern Soccer League should have been a thing so long ago, let's be real. Or at least Vancouver and Toronto should have been playing in the NWSL, just like the NBA has the Raptors and then the MLS has the men's team, and then how the Blue Jays are in the MLB. So I think it was a long time coming, especially considering how good the Canadian women's soccer national team is. And all of them are having to play abroad because there's no league. I think this will bring some of them back, even if it's like for a few more years before they retire. All press is good press. And the move, honestly, I think again was perfect timing. As I said before, I also think it's just going to be a really refreshing start. Everyone's going to be new. There's only maybe 6 teams, I believe, in the league.
Mm-hmm.
It seems very connected from what I've heard. The league, so each team is their own thing. So if the teams say something, if enough teams vote on that, then it will be something. But if not enough teams vote on it, then it won't be that, which is great, giving the teams individual power, which is, I feel like, hard, but it's a good like base, especially because then you don't have to abide by the league.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And then it gives teams all this freedom to kind of do whatever they would like.
That's some really good insight. I feel like that's almost, Allie, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of what NUCO is trying to do with the WSL and the championship, merging those two under like one leadership so that feels more like a democracy among the teams and less that this one overarching thing is going to make decisions for all of the teams to abide by.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. I don't know if I said everything correct, but that's like what I've gathered from hearing conversations about it. So yeah, I'm like, that's good, because then everybody has a say a bit. Like, and if it doesn't work out, oh, well, you'll get a next time, and you can see where everybody else stands, et cetera, which is nice.
Was there anything about it being a new league that made you, when you were considering the jump, where you're like, these are the benefits of it being a brand new league, but these are maybe also some downsides in your decision-making process?
No, yeah, definitely. I also was really big on location, kind of happy mind, body, spirit. I feel like the mental side is massive. And if there's not much to do, you're going to drive yourself crazy type of thing. So when I found out Toronto was interested, I actually was like, oh my gosh, like amazing, super excited, insane city, super diverse. Love that. Great food. Also love that. And super close to Europe. And I need to go to Europe. Obviously, yeah.
Also, it doesn't hurt that you're going to be in Canada for the next foreseeable future, considering what's happening here.
It was lovely timing.
It really was.
Timing. And I wasn't really too worried about it being a startup. Obviously, everything takes years. Leagues that have been around for a very long time are still trying to get better. But I think their foundation is something really special, and I cannot wait to see where it goes.
You really hit the jackpot with Toronto.
I'm so excited.
For sure.
Ecstatic. Everyone's like, I'm going to come and visit. My parents are like, we're going to come and move with you.
Yeah. I'm going to come and move with you.
Everybody come and move with me.
You're going to have the biggest entourage.
Yeah. I'm going to be like, what the heck is going on here?
Allie, you want to close that out?
Close it out. So what can people expect from this new league?
Another great question. I think that people and the fans can expect a competitive league. Obviously, that is going to take time, but I think that the fan bases are going to be there from the beginning. I feel like they picked really good markets to start in. I also think that the quality of soccer is going to be really good. And I also think that we're going to do a lot of work to make sure that the fan experience is what it needs to be. I also heard that when the women's Canadian team did their send-off match for the World Cup, it was in the Bank Stadium. When I was just there, we watched the men play, and it was sold out for the women, but not the men. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is going to be crazy, especially because they rally and people have been wanting a women's Canadian league. So I feel like it's going to be great. And I hope that our fans come, even if it's a little bit chilly. Everybody keeps telling me how freezing it's going to be.
Yeah, I guess for somebody from Los Angeles, it gets cold in Oregon, but nothing like Toronto.
It would snow in Oregon.
Yeah. I'm picturing Toronto like it's right next to Buffalo, New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets like a lot of that's like different than Oregon snow. Yeah.
Yeah. A little different.
Yeah.
Like 20 feet of snow.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I guess it does kick off in April. Sorry, April 2025 for those who are wondering. So perhaps there won't be a ton of snow for you to play in. My fingers are crossed for your benefit.
Thank you so much. Mine are too. And I think our merch just dropped. So if anybody wants to go and get merch, it's super cute. And I'm modeling some of it.
Yes. If it's legit cute, I will absolutely buy it. I'm here for any cute soccer gear that I get my hands on.
I was gonna say, I've checked out the merch. It's very cute. I want a hat.
See? Did you see? Did you see me holding it?
Yeah, you with the hat. But the hat, I'm obsessed with baseball caps and snapbacks, so I want a hat.
Okay. Who's your favorite team? Manchester?
No, I'm a West Ham fan. For new sins.
Are you in Manchester?
Yeah, but I'm born in London, so.
Oh, got it.
All right, we're going to finish off. We have 2 questions that we ask everybody that comes on the pod, and something our fans quite like. So the first one is, what is a good both and moment from your career where you both worked really hard and an opportunity came about that you were able to take advantage of?
Got it. Okay. The Kansas City contract. I worked really hard to be ready, whether it was for the draft or to play in the NWSL. But when I went there, trained my butt off, showcased well, and that was a testament of me both working really hard and then everything kind of paying off and seeing all my, what is this analogy, like not crumbs fall in a line, but like everything fall into place. And that was definitely that moment.
Wonderful. And the last one, we also ask everybody, there's no context given. You can take it however you want. World Cup or Olympics?
Oh, Olympics. The reason being, I love track and field and I love gymnastics. And I feel like you learn about some sports that you didn't even know were a thing, like breakdancing this past year. I mean, that was an atrocity.
But
it was so hilarious to watch. I was like, they're at the Olympics. Like now they can go get the Olympics tattoo or a necklace or a ring, whatever. That's so cool. And I also feel like the Olympic villages sound really interesting. And I feel like you would meet so many people around the US or the world, wherever. But I don't know. I just feel like it's such a insane moment, especially since the world is always not on the same page. I feel like the Olympics is a time for everybody to come together, even if it's just for a month. It's nice to see.
I love it. You mentioned like national teams ish, I guess I'm talking about. I'm curious. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your dad was born in Puerto Rico?
Mother's father was born in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay. Wikipedia is wrong.
I know, it's so wrong. I don't even know who's putting my stuff in. I'm like,
I wish I used better sources for my research, but I went to Wikipedia.
No.
Are you able to, I don't actually know the rules. Are you able to play if you want to for the Puerto Rican team, or are you like, I can't, if you have the choice, where would you want to play?
So I am working on it. I reached out, kind of heard back, still waiting to see about that.
I love it. Yeah. I think you would be a baller on the Puerto Rican team. There's so many such great talent also from the NWSL.
From the US. Yeah. And they did super duper well in the Gold Cup.
Yes. They were the most fun team to watch.
Yeah. Because they have one of the girls I actually played against in college. I was talking to her via Instagram and she was like, yeah, just reach out, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, great. My Spanish is not very good, but I can work on it.
This is a dumb question. Toronto, French?
French, but English. Okay. Mainly English. Montreal and Quebec, French.
Okay.
But they do English and French is like Canada.
Okay. Yeah. You're going to become trilingual very quickly.
Trilingual, yeah. I don't mind if I do.
Yeah. Can't hurt. All right. That's all we got for you today. Thank you so much for being on. That was so much fun.
No, thank you so much again. That was great.
And now for something slightly different but equally special. For anybody who follows us on Patreon will be aware of Chris and his fits and kits. And he is making music, and he has just dropped a new song which you can listen to on all streaming services. The band is called The Soft Launch, and the song is Powder Blue. And we're both obsessed with it.
Obsessed.
Already.
I mean, he's been playing in a band for probably longer than we've all been alive. And they're crushing it. So we highly recommend everybody go check it out. And that's it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.